Hello, and welcome to another webinar where we break down complex IT strategies into actionable insights. Today, we're diving into cloud migration strategies, specifically the differences between lift and shift and move and improve, along with server replication benefits and hybrid approaches. Joining us is Denova's CTO, Paul Scheer, an expert in cloud migration with extensive experience in JD Edwards and enterprise IT transformation. Paul, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, Skylar.
Yeah, of course. So let's start out with the basics. It seems today that everyone wants to go to the cloud. Two common patterns used are lift and shift and move and improve. Can you break down what the key differences between those two are?
Sure. So at the highest level, lift and shift is really about optimizing for speed. There's an old adage in engineering that you can only optimize for one thing. Also, sometimes I'll joke that only idiots optimize, but that's another story. But in lift and shift, you're optimizing for speed. You want to get this moved from point A to point B as quickly as possible. You want to change as little as possible so that you're minimizing the amount of testing that has to be done. And just get it from here to there, get it up and running, get done with it. So an example of where that's an appropriate method, I had a customer, this was years ago, where they had a complete change in IT leadership within their organization. The new IT leadership had no idea that the lease for their data center was about to expire. So they contacted us with less than 2 months of time before they had to fully be out of the data center. We did not try to do a move and improve. We did a lift and shift. We maximized for making that migration happen absolutely as quickly as possible. So lift and shift. Move and improve, what we're optimizing for there is business value. So we know that whenever you're doing a migration to the cloud, it's disruptive. Anybody that tells you that it's not a big deal, that it's simple, they're trying to sell you a bag of goods. I would throw them out of the room. It's just disingenuous. I mean, even the lift and shift, it's disruptive to an organization. Move and improve, though, what it's about is trying to maximize the business value that you're getting for that disruption. So you want to, on the other side, you want to land a customer on whatever's got the maximum amount of shelf life. I want to be on the latest operating system. I want to be on the latest database. I want to be using the latest technology stack. I want to be landing on the latest version of applications. So just from a technology debt standpoint, you've retired as much technology debt as possible. And all of the new feature functionality of that application is available for the business to start taking advantage of. I know we did a webinar a couple weeks ago where we were talking about some of the low code, no code stuff, where literally you could build composite applications, take some of the screens from JD Edwards, maybe take other screens from Salesforce or Shopify, and basically mash everything together onto a single screen so that that user is working with that composite application. And so instead of having to bounce around between 3 different applications, they have one place that they're engaging with all 3 systems on. Being on the latest supported version of JD Edwards in this case, or maybe it's EBS, etc. This is what's giving you the foundational technology that lets you take that type of approach. It gives you the ability to take maybe what's a 15-step process today and really collapse that down into 4 steps. That's the business value that we're trying to deliver.
So in short terms, lift and shift is really about speed and simplicity, whereas move and improve is going to focus on those long-term business values.
Yeah, that's basically the TLDR.
Got it. Got it. So what about server replication technologies? What are the key advantages of using them in a lift and shift migration?
Yes. So one of the things that you're always looking at whenever you're doing lift and shift or move and improve for that matter is how long of an outage window can the business tolerate? So, typically if they can be down for a weekend, you can take image backups and bring those over, and then you can take a full database backup and restore and bring back that up to object storage, restore from that. And even within those approaches, there's ways to get more creative around it. So like database, I could do the full backup maybe like 12 hours before the outage begins and have that already pre-staged to object storage, and then only take a cumulative backup when the outage window begins. And it's all about trying to minimize the length of time for that outage window. Some organizations, though, are going to come back and say, literally every hour I'm down, you're costing me 50, 60, $70,000. And if that's the case, we've got to really minimize that window because those are real dollars the organization is spending. So in that approach, we're going to use replication technology. So from an x86 server standpoint, I'm going to basically be using products like Zerto, Carbonite, etc., to basically replicate the hard drive from the one location to the location in the cloud. But it's going to be continually running. So as server blocks are changed over here on the source location, they're getting asynchronously replicated over to the cloud. So when the outage begins, I don't have to spend time copying all of this data and bringing it over. It's already sitting here. So basically that whole transport across the wire gets eliminated. Now that's the just from a server standpoint. Now from a database standpoint, if we're talking an Oracle database, I may use Oracle Data Guard, or I might use a third-party product like dbVisit to replicate the data from the source to the target. Again, I don't want data replication to be happening during that outage window. I want it all done in advance. SQL Server, I might use log shipping to accomplish the same thing.
Got it. So it really sounds like an ideal solution for businesses that need to migrate quickly without necessarily re-engineering all of their applications.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, on the database replication side, that's probably the same approach I'm going to take in the move and improve. So even if I'm going to get them to a newer version of the database or even re-platform the database, let me go ahead and do a like-for-like replication into the cloud. And then during the outage window, I'll use that as my source and then transform that to the target.
Got it. So it's great leeway to move and improve also. For move and improve, how does this methodology enhance business value specifically for JD Edwards users?
Well, like I said before, the example of you've got the business process today that maybe it's taking 15 different steps, and you're running on 9.1, or maybe you're even on 9.2, but that was 7-8 years ago that you upgraded to it. Getting to that latest version that has AIS and orchestrator and all of those capabilities is really the framework that allows you to drive automation, orchestration within your business, the ability to build those composable apps. So I've got this system of engagement that is basically taking the best of JD Edwards, the best of Salesforce, and what other systems that you have, and really putting them onto a single pane of glass so your user is not context switching back and forth across these multiple applications trying to execute that single business process. I mean, it really, drives a lot of value for the organization, because at the end of the day, IT systems really aren't that expensive. Servers are cheap. which means if you're running on slow servers, you've got a problem, we should talk. But servers are really for most organizations, it's almost a rounding error in terms of their overall budget. People are expensive. Maximizing the value of your people, literally, that can move a company's bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, nowadays we see companies using less than 10% of their annual spending towards IT. So if we're able to really get the most out of our money there and automate a lot of those processes, I'm sure you'll see that bottom line improve heavily.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm saying it is I'm a technology guy. What I care about is technology. I want to retire IT debt. I hate it. It drags companies down. But if we can deliver more business value and a company's people are scaling more, that frees up more capital that they can invest in the things that I really care about, like being on really, really fast servers, having amazing throughput on the storage, having a great cyber resiliency policy. All of these other initiatives that are often hard to get funded. Now, all of a sudden, you've freed up capital to be able to redeploy to do this by really kind of focusing on what for most organizations is their biggest single line item cost, their people.
No, definitely. Just going to shift gears a little bit. A lot of times we'll see that businesses don't really fully want to go one direction when it comes to cloud. Can you describe what a hybrid approach looks like and how or when that might be the best option?
Sure. So, yeah, two extremes. We've got the lift and shift, which I sometimes describe that as, doing a lift and shift into the cloud is like having this beautiful, picturesque mountain scene that you locate a trailer park on. And literally any problems that you have on-prem today, any technology debt, et cetera, all you're doing is you're moving that technology debt to the cloud. One of the reasons that I'm generally not excited about that approach, sometimes like the case of that company that had to exit the data center in 2 months, absolutely the way to go in their case. For most organizations, you really want to think about what's delivering the business value, and that's the move and improve. But sometimes it's just too much change for an organization to take at once. There is a hybrid approach. And in the case of JD Edwards, this might be where we take a look at, okay, based on the application level you're on, what's the highest level of tools that we can get you to? And based on that version of tools, what's the newest operating system version? What's the newest database version? And so we're not going to do an application upgrade. All your customization that you've got out there is going to remain intact, but we are going to land you on OSs, on database, and on tools that have the maximum amount of shelf life before we're back in a position of being forced to do anything. So for a lot of companies, that hybrid approach or that middle ground is really the right way. Now, another scenario is a lot of times the third-party products that surround JD Edwards. I joke that moving JD Edwards to the cloud is easy. Upgrading JD Edwards is easy. The hard part is always these third-party products. And sometimes with these third-party products, we'll literally see scenarios where the original software manufacturer went out of business 10 years ago. And so it is totally unsupported. It's running on this old operating system, and everybody is terrified to touch it. Well, in that case, so maybe we did the move and improve on JD Edwards, but maybe on some of these older components, third-party components, we're going to lift and shift those over using that Carbonite, Zerto, other products that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we've already heard a ton of valuable insights from you, Paul. Before wrapping up, is there any final advice that you have for organizations planning a cloud migration?
Yeah, if you have not done this before, you're really best off to engage with someone that's done it hundreds of times. Your organization probably has very smart people, very talented people, and I doubt they're any smarter than the people I've got at DeNovo. The difference with DeNovo is we've done hundreds of these, so we know where the sharp edges are already. Uh, Companies doing this themselves the first time, they're going to encounter a lot of those same sharp edges that we originally ran into 7, 8 years ago. So you can really minimize the amount of time and pain involved in the migration by engaging somebody that's done this repeatedly.
Yeah, great point. Get it done from someone who knows what they're doing because they've got the practice for sure. Well, Paul, thank you so much for your time today. And for anyone watching, if you have any questions or would like to connect with Paul Scheer personally about how these can help your company, connect with us using the QR code on the following page. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, keep innovating.
Thanks so much for having me, Skylar.
Of course.